Welcome back to All About Winning Daily Fantasy Sports. My name is Ty Patton. Only 3 weeks of the NFL regular season remains as Week 15 kicks off with two teams headed in opposite directions. With the New York Jets playing out the season with a 5-8 record visiting the AFC frontrunner Baltimore Ravens, who are trying to take another step towards home field advantage with their AFC North leading 11-2 record. The Ravens come into this game as a 16-point favorite with a game total of 44.5 points, led by MVP candidate quarterback Lamar Jackson, whose dual threat capabilities has given defenses nightmares this season. Before we unpack tonight's game, I want to share the numbers that are fantasy relevant to the Showdown contest itself. Up to and including the Monday night showdown between the Giants and Eagles, there have been 103 Showdown contests during the 2019 season. These showdowns have an average winning score of 132.42. The average winning captain score is 42.53. Since the captain score represents 32% of the average winning score, I focus a lot of attention to the captain's position. With that being said, the captain's position breaks down as follows, and this is through 103 showdown contests. The underdog running back has been the captain for the winning lineup more than any other position, 21 times for 20%. The favorite quarterback, 18 times for 17%. The favored wide receiver has been the captain for the winning lineup, 18 times for 17%. The underdog wide receiver has been the captain in the winning lineup 14 times for 14%. The favored running back has been the captain in the winning lineup 13 times for 13%. The underdog quarterback has been the captain in the winning lineup 7 times for 7%. The favorite defensive special teams has been the captain in the winning lineup 6 times for 6%. The underdog kicker has been the captain in the winning lineup 2 times for 2%. The favorite tight end has been the captain in the winning lineup 2 times for 2%. The underdog tight end has been the captain in the winning lineup 1 time for 1%. And the underdog defensive special teams has been the captain in the winning lineup 1 time for 1%. Now, I combine these by positions, whether they were favored or underdog, and it breaks down as follows. Running backs have been in the captain's position for the winning lineup more than any other position, 34 times for 33%, which is 1/3. Wide receivers are close behind, 32 times for 31%. Quarterbacks, 25 times for 24%. All others represent 12 times for 12%. I also break this down by overall straight-up record of the captain in the winning lineup. And the captain in the winning lineup, their teams have a record of 71 wins and 32 losses, which is 69%. So the captain comes from the winning team 69% of the time. And I broke it down by position. Running backs are 25 wins and 8 losses, which is a 76% win percentage. Wide receivers, 18 wins and 14 losses, which is a 56% win percentage. And quarterbacks, 18 wins and 7 losses, which is a 72% winning percentage. Now, do these numbers unlock the mystery of tonight's showdown lineup between the Ravens and the Jets? Absolutely not. But there are some takeaways from these numbers that can give us an edge, which in the end, that's all we're looking for. Such things as the underdog running back appears in the captain spot for the winning lineup more than any other position. Running backs combined for 1/3 of the captain spots in the winning lineups. And the captain comes from the winning team 69% of the time. And those are just some of the things that I use to factor into my overall process when I'm building my showdown lineups. And the rest of my process involves, first I take a stand. Who do I think is going to win? How are they going to win? Who are the players involved in this team winning? What is the path to victory? The passing game, running game? What are the good matchups? Then I identify players that support these matchups, and then I take a few of those players who I think have a path to being the highest scoring player of the game. In tonight's game, there seems to be on paper a complete mismatch. It seems to be impossible to get away from Lamar Jackson at the captain spot, but to differentiate yourself will be the way that you can gain leverage. He'll probably be 70-80% owned in that captain spot, and there's other ways to get away from him in that captain spot. I will have my share of him in some lineups in the captain spot, but I'm going to build some other lineups with him in the flex. I don't consider fading him I feel like he's going to be involved in this game one way or another, whether it's the running game or the passing game or both. Then I feel like when you have Lamar Jackson, you're paying for two players. He's $20,700 in the captain's spot, but he's a quarterback and he's a running back. And those are things that you have to factor in. He will be widely popular in the captain spot. And I wouldn't be surprised at all if he is the uh, captain for the winning lineup tonight. It's just how you're going to build the rest of your lineup. But what I'm going to do is build in a different way because I feel that the passing game for Baltimore is where he's probably going to be able to expose them the most. The Jets are pretty stingy versus the run game. So they're fifth overall, and I consider him a running back as well. So if they're able to shut him down somewhat, I don't think they'll totally shut him out. But if he goes to the air, they do have an advantage, especially with Marquise Brown. Now, actually, on paper, Willie Snead has the best matchup versus their cornerbacks, but you have to consider Marquise Brown. And that's how I'm going to build one of my lineups. I'm going to show you that and using the numbers that we just talked about, and I'll show you how I correlate these things and build around my players and build my lineup. Now, some things that I consider when I'm building my lineups, I try not to use more than one of the two defenses and two field goal kickers, one of those four, two at the most. That's how I like to build. And kickers and defenses do correlate and make sense when you're building. That's another thing with building these lineups. Make sense of it. You know, if you got, for me, if I have a quarterback in my captain spot, I want at least two targets in my flex spots. If I have a wide receiver in the captain spot, I at least want his quarterback in a flex spot. The only way he's going to go off is if the quarterback throws him the ball. So those are some things that I do when I'm building my lineups. Now, this is the lineup that I'm working on. I'm thinking it'll be somewhat contrarian. If he's 70% owned, 70 to 80% owned in the captain spot, this is one way to gain leverage on the field. But what I'm saying is I feel like this particular player is going to outscore Lamar Jackson. So with that being said, this is the lineup that I'm working on. I'm going to go with Marquise Brown in the captain spot, and I'm going to bring it back with Lamar Jackson. I'm also going to have Seth Roberts, who has moved into the number 3 spot for Baltimore. I'm going to have Jamison Crowder. Obviously, I want some pieces of the Jets. If this game is going to be so lopsided with the 16-point spread, it doesn't lead you to believe that the Jets are going to be able to run the ball, control the clock, and stay competitive that way. If they get behind, they're going to have to go to the air, and Crowder gets a lot of targets. And in comeback mode, I could see Darnold going to him a lot. I don't particularly like the Le'Veon Bell matchup this week, and I'm going to go this way. So with Crowder, I'm going to put Darnold. Just figure, even in garbage time, garbage points are as good as no points. And lastly, the field goal kicker. Excuse me here. That left me 4,000. And left me 500 on the table. This is one of my builds. I really like it. I have Lamar Jackson with a couple of his targets. One of his targets being in the captain spot. Seth Roberts fits in real nice. I wanted to share that statistic with you guys. He had 4 targets in the game against the Bills, but he's getting enough targets, and he's a nice. It doesn't take much to pay off at the 1,800. And if he does just a little bit, and Marquise Brown goes off, you know, I'm taking a big risk by not having Lamar Jackson in the captain spot. But if he was in the captain spot, I wouldn't be able to balance it out with these other players because he's 20,700 or 20,800, whatever it is. So This is the lineup that I'm working on, and that's how I correlate, use the numbers. I have the wide receiver coming from the favorite team that I think is going to win, and I'm going to build that way. I think a couple bombs or something because the Jets are weak on the outside, and Marquise Brown has the speed to exploit that. So that's the lineup that I'm working on manually, and I will have it in some contests. Now, the whole idea of my video isn't to give you picks. I want to show you my process. I want to share with you the numbers that I use and how I put my lineups together. I have never won one of these showdown contests. I've placed and cashed in probably 90% of them. Have a pretty good percentage of doing that. I believe in my process, and one day I know I will take one of these down. But I want to show you guys the process, how I use the numbers and correlate them and try to make sense of the game. So as I always do, I use an optimizer. And I do that for the main slate. I do it for showdown lineups. And what I do is the players that I'm interested in, I put them in optimizer. I set my optimizer for 150 lineups. For the showdown, I pick about four, five, six different captains, put different percentages on them. Tonight I did have Lamar Jackson, I think, set between 40 and 60% of the captain spots. And then I go to the flex positions and set up percentages of that. Some of the players I take out because you do want some exposure to some of the lower owned guys because showdown there's so much variance you don't really know what's going to happen. And here comes somebody fourth string wide receiver who magically appears down the field wide open, and next thing you know he's falling in the end zone and no one else has him, or 1% of the people playing have him, and they're on their way. So I don't include them all, and when I'm building manually I don't go down there and try to just find a $200 player so I can spend up at other places. I want value, but I want value that at least has some type of floor. So I set it for 150 lineups. This for this game in particular, and I set a few rules. Which I've already talked about. If the quarterback's going to be in the captain spot, I want at least two of his targets. The wide receiver is going to be in the captain spot. I at least want his quarterback in the flex. And I try to set it up to only have one of the four between the two field goal kickers and two defense special teams. One of the four, two at the most. And I let it go. And sometimes it'll give me 150 lineups, and I've hit 150 on the dot, or there's way more than that, and I really don't know. But a big majority of the time, it's not able to give me 150 with the minimum, maximum exposures and all those things that I have. So tonight I did it, and it was able to give me 129 lineups. And as I always do, I share with you guys the first lineup that was generated, and that's what I'm going to do right now. It had Lamar Jackson in the captain spot, which will be chalky. It had Mark Andrews. He's got a questionable tag too. That's another thing with Jackson tonight. He's expected to attempt to play tonight, so that's iffy. That's kind of scary. Andrews was able to make the practice field on a limited basis for consecutive sessions, but officially enters the week with a questionable tag. The Ravens are double-digit favorites in our team with plenty of depth at the position, so while a conservative approach for Andrews might make sense, it seems he's physically healthy enough to go. So this was generated by the optimizer. Obviously, I didn't take Andrews out because he's definitely viable. And Lamar Jackson, his injury, said he would be fine earlier in the week, but quadriceps was listed as questionable for the Thursday game against the Jets. Indicated earlier this week that he'll be able to play. Jameson Henley, ESPN reports. Then it goes on to say players' comments about their own injuries should normally be taken with a grain of salt, but in Jackson's case, his optimism seems warranted. Not only was Jackson able to return in a full practice Wednesday, but Mike Garafolo of New York NFL Network suggests the quarterback is only carrying the questionable tag probably into the, sorry about that, you guys. into the Week 15 contest because the NFL no longer authorizes a probable listing. So he might not have anything. He just got a little bit banged up on his quadricep, but he might limit his running a little bit. So I'm going to consider that. And with the manual build that I did, and maybe if he's just going to drop back and try to throw the ball and scramble around a little bit, perhaps that'll play into my favor for that particular lineup. The optimized lineup had Sam Darnold. It had Seth Roberts. He'll probably be pretty popular because he's the number 3 coming out of the slot, and he's only 1,800. It also had Willie Snead. So it did away with Marquise Brown and brought in Snead, and Snead does have a good matchup on paper. And then it also had the Ravens kicker, Tucker, and left 300 on the table. Leaving money on the table is always a good thing in the Showdown contest. I've seen something where the average winning lineup leaves just a little bit over $1,000 on the table for these type of contests. So there you go. You have you can see my rule pretty much is evident in this. You got Jackson in the captain, bringing it back with at least 2 of his targets, which is in this case we got 3 of them: Andrews, Roberts, and Snead, and the field goal kicker for Baltimore, bringing it back with it's pretty much a Jets or a Baltimore onslaught. The only thing it has is Sam Darnold. So there you go. That was the optimized lineup. I'm going to wrap this video up so I can get it posted for you guys. I'm running a little bit behind today, and I'll be trying to get my quarterback video out and the rest of the lineup building videos tomorrow and Saturday for you guys. So I want to thank you for joining me. I encourage you to please drop any opinions or comments that you may have below. Please share this video, like it, subscribe if you're not already a subscriber, and hit that notification bell so you get notified when my next video posts. My subscriptions have been trending upward, and my viewers have been going way up. And I'd just like to see some of those viewers turn into some subscribers, and just give me a chance. You don't have anything to lose. I just have some really good information. I'll be back tomorrow, as I mentioned, to start posting and building the lineups for this weekend's main slate. You can also follow me on Twitter at winningabout. Don't forget the injury report tonight at 7 o'clock. Always check that, even if they don't have an injury designation going into the game. You never know what might happen in the warm-ups. Good luck tonight. My name is Ty Patton. This is all about winning daily fantasy sports, and I'll see you guys again real soon. Take care.